got the answers, tell what answers I could find you, I could find.
From the Sporting News Studios, this is the Fantasy Football Show with your host, Matt Litevsky.
I got all the answers, all the answers I could find you, I could find all the answers if you let me get it close and study you.
Eric, you can accomplish anything in life if you're willing to work for it. That's the theme.
Do you have a certificate that says that?
I don't have an official certificate yet, but I'm going to work on it, and I'm going to get it to you. That's the theme of the Week 6 Fantasy Football Show podcast. I am Matt Litevsky, as you know, senior fantasy editor at Sporting News, and as always, joined by fantasy football enthusiast.
Not too enthusiastic lately, I'm going to be honest.
Not too enthusiastic lately, but we'll get into all that as we always do. Run down what we were wrong about last week. I had a lot, so we're going to whittle it down. Then we always get into the most searched players of the week, highest trending. And then, of course, our sleepers and busts, where I try to atone for last week's debacle. And then we get into some random stuff off the field. The Drew Brees, I don't even know what to call it. It's not a debacle, but it was.
We thought it was going to be a love fest, right?
Yeah.
Did we have any idea there was going to be a certificate involved?
I didn't think there'd be a certificate.
Have you ever seen a football player run off the field with a laminated certificate? That was
whose idea
weird.
was that? We'll get into that a little bit later. But like I said, we start by looking back at last week, what we got wrong. The first thing, might notice, loyal listeners know Alex Novick, who pops up every other week just to crap on us and then leaves.
Right.
It doesn't have to face the
Never
music
has to
afterwards.
answer for anything.
So we start with, hey, what do you have to say for yourself? We start this segment. We're going to, even though he's not here, let's start with Alex.
We did a solid 5 to 7 minutes on this last week. Why not a few more?
Good Lord. The John Brown versus Dede Westbrook, that was a debacle.
Yeah.
And we were both thought clear as day it's John Brown. He was firmly on the Dede Westbrook side.
I mean, maybe he's playing college fantasy.
He might be.
From a few years ago. Or some Stratomatic college football.
No, he's probably a time traveler.
Yeah.
Who was that's why he's always gone every other week.
2015, 2016 college football Stratomatic.
But now, to be fair, neither did anything this week.
But 14 targets for John Brown. That's what tells the story.
We go inside the numbers here. We don't just let anyone can tell you yards and touchdowns. Thanks a lot, Sports Center. We don't need that. We need to go deeper. And
that's how you look forward. That's how you spot things.
That's right. 14 targets for John Brown. Dede Westbrook only had 5.
Right.
And I think...
And it's not just that. Westbrook, so Jacksonville, Moncrief had 15. Keelan Cole and TJ Yeldon had 10 each. Niles Paul had 9.
Niles Paul. Ossis Jenkins on the IR. Niles Paul, not just the...
To be clear, I don't think either one of us, I'm not going to speak for you, I don't think either one of us thinks Dede Westbrook isn't part of the offense. I think the point is they have a couple of options, and he's not the number one option.
He's not the number one option. He's 1C. Sometimes we go like 1A, 1B. Right. He's 1C because they're all in there. And now maybe Niles Paul's in the mix too.
Not saying Westbrook couldn't be the guy next week.
Right. But
John Brown every week's getting double-digit targets. They're deep targets.
That's right.
They're throwing way down the field to him. Mm-hmm. He's just, I mean, I know it didn't add up to a ton. He had, 58 yards?
Something like that. But so, he was due.
I mean, receivers are going to have 58-yard games. Mm-hmm. What I like to see is 14 targets. And how many of them were 30 yards down the field?
Right.
A lot.
I assume
Answer
all.
A lot.
I didn't look. Yes. And the other thing we got to get on Alex about, another spirited debate about hamstring injuries, how anyone with a hamstring injury...
Have you ever seen someone come back in a week from a hamstring injury?
2 weeks.
Yeah.
And we said, yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, but we don't have stats on that.
No way. Well, we had some anecdotal evidence this week. Sammy Watkins, who hurt his hamstring on a Monday night, no less. And then
he looks
spry.
He looks spry.
And what was it, 90 total yards, something like that?
I saw him break out on one.
Against the best defense in the NFL.
Yeah. See, I thought Alex would at least show up today so that he could maybe talk up his boy, Ronald Jones II, who, coming out of the bye.
This is the week.
This is the week.
Great matchup.
This is the week. I thought he'd be here to set the table, and then next week tell us how right he was all along about that Ferrari.
Right.
Parked in the garage.
It's getting a little tune-up. We'll see if it's like Ferris Bueller's Day Off, if that's how it ends up, or smooth sailing. But yeah, it's a great matchup for him. I just wish I knew because I think I'm starting Peyton Barber this week, and that's horrible.
Yikes.
And one of the reasons I'm starting Peyton Barber, little segue, is one of the things I was wrong about last week, and that was saying Derrick Henry would be a sleeper, would have his breakout game.
I'm so over this guy.
Over 5 yards a carry, like he was playing pretty well. It was a close game. No reason not to keep running him, right?
The sad thing is I watch a lot of Titans. I don't know why. I don't know why. I think it's because I have Henry and Corey Davis and Deion Lewis across my team.
Yourself.
So I'm just watching it. I don't know where the plays go because you're like he 5 yards a carry. Cool. Keep feeding the ball. Where did the plays go?
So
with
I'm
that
looking
team?
at it. Derrick Henry 11 carries, 56 yards. Deion Lewis 12 for 34. So Deion Lewis had more carries despite clearly not being as effective. And Deion Lewis, God bless him, I think he's really good in what he does as a receiver, etc. But if he has a day where he doesn't have it going on the ground and the other guy does, why are we forcing him the ball?
I don't know.
And Lewis 3 catches, 14 yards. Obviously Henry no catches.
But they were having trouble throwing the ball.
26 pass attempts.
And they got a running back averaging 5 yards a carry for the first time.
I guess they just don't have plays.
Yeah, I don't know where the plays go. I challenge you to watch a Titans game and tell me where the plays go.
Oh, God, I would never watch a Titans game.
Well,
Are you kidding me? Now that Derrick Henry's firmly on my bench, so I do apologize for recommending.
He'll score a touchdown at some point.
Oh, and it'll be this week in a horrible matchup against the Ravens when he's on my bench and I'm playing Peyton Barber, who's going to get 4 touches. We already see that coming. Another one I was wrong on. Another sleeper who I pick damn near every week, Ricky Seals-Jones.
Still sleeping.
Still sleeping. Big goose egg. But this is where we go back inside the numbers.
Oh, okay. What do you got?
Try to claim something here. 6 targets.
Okay.
Tied for the team lead? Let me double check that. Tied for the team lead with Chad Williams. So
rookie quarterback, maybe those targets will get a little closer to him.
Road start.
Did you see any of the targets? Whose fault were they that they weren't? That he was 0 for 6.
I think it was more Rosen.
Okay.
That.
So maybe another week of practice, those targets are getting tightened up a little bit.
Another road start against a much tougher opponent in Minnesota this week. Yeah, no. So Ricky Seals-Jones. We're gonna say this about tight ends. He's gonna catch touchdowns.
Mm-hmm. They all do.
But it might be 2 weeks from now, then 3 weeks from now.
I think he's in dart throw status at this point.
Yeah, this was a good matchup, and he goose-egged, so at this point, I don't know why anyone would trust him until we see some completions.
Especially, didn't we see? We saw a little bit of that Rosen to Christian Kirk connection.
A little bit.
Right? After that visit to UCLA freshman year.
College visit together 6 years ago.
Finally starting to pay off.
4 years ago. Whatever it was. Yeah, it's not good for old RSJ. It's even worse for Larry Fitzgerald, though.
Yeah,
this guy's almost looking like
might be done. Maybe Alex was right on that one earlier in the season.
Yeah, that's true. He did. The busboy did take some food off his plate. But
wrong side of 30.
Wouldn't you love? We always talk about the NFL trade deadline, and hardly anything ever comes of it. Last year, a few things. Jay Ajayi, Kelvin Benjamin, Larry Fitzgerald, trade him, right? Contenders could use him.
But is he one of those guys who either wants to play in Arizona because that's where he lives or nothing?
I think he might.
Because he went through, years ago when Arizona was terrible. Mm-hmm. I know that's hard to believe they used to be terrible and are terrible again. But there was kind of some Larry Fitzgerald is done talk.
Or at least was going to retire, but yeah, both, yeah.
But then Arizona had a little bit of a resurgence, and he looked pretty good. Right. Last year he had a great year. Even the year before, I think he had a great year, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like, okay, maybe he's not done. But now we're back to, maybe he's done. It was like his quarterback play.
Yeah, he's one of these, he could play forever. It's just so effortless with him. And yeah, I don't know how much of it's him. But you look at it, 3 targets. That was the thing in those years, you're referencing. He was getting a ton of targets, and you watch those games, and you're like, what was their one? The guy who started the playoff game for them. Johnny Skelton.
John Skelton.
And it was just bounce pass over his head.
I mean, he's also hurt. He hasn't been practicing a ton. Maybe he's playing through something he should be playing through.
Can you drop him? Is he? I think he is.
Man, I don't know. It'd be tough to drop him. But
how can you sit here and watch Marquez Valdez-Scantling show up every week? Because
it's tough to drop
in any given week.
You can bench him. I have no problem benching Fitzgerald for weeks. But dropping him's tough.
Better to cut bait early. Admit your mistake. It's a sunk cost at this point.
Guess.
He will score too. I was saying that. And then one more that I was wrong about because...
Let's go right down the list.
I mean, we probably could do more than this too, but I said Russell Wilson would bust, and he didn't. But the thing that really bugs me is that I said, oh yeah, it probably gets some garbage time though. I mean, it wasn't garbage time.
Yeah, they played with him.
But he only had 180 yards. It was just he had a couple long touchdowns.
We can segue this into I'm so sick of picking quarterback sleepers and busts.
It's the worst.
Like coming up with someone from the top. We've talked about this a million times. The quarterback's super deep. Mm-hmm. We got to pick a guy that you would normally start and tell you to put him on the bench. So we keep reaching for these really good quarterbacks.
Well, yours last week. We'll move to you now.
Come
Carson
on.
Wentz bust.
Yeah, he was busting for 3 quarters.
For 3.5.
3.5 quarters, and then he throws up 2 TDs in garbage time.
And finished with 334 yards?
I didn't mark it down here, but
something like that.
Over 302 TDs.
Right.
He had nothing until the 4th.
Yeah.
So I was right.
But you were wrong.
Well, potato.
Well, I think you were wrong.
But my point is, trying to pick a starting quarterback that most people will be starting and say, flat out, put this guy on your bench because he's going to bust. It's just...
It really is a one-to-one thing,
doesn't really work.
Right? And it's like, so even though Wentz did okay, and if someone started him, they were probably okay with the final line, obviously, it's, well, who out there was better? Who could you have started that was going to be better? That would have been possibly below him most weeks.
Yeah, and it's not even worth the risk to do that over a lot of these guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're just going to trust talent.
But unlike you last week, I had a bunch of stuff right.
I had one thing right.
Well, I told you...
A couple of my busts were right.
I told you Naheem Hines was going to be decent. Mm-hmm. He had over 90 yards and a bunch of receptions.
I agreed with you.
You did, smartly.
Alex was the one who
told you Lamar Miller was going to be a bust. He was active, didn't play. Always the worst.
That's
a low hanging fruit.
Can I claim Dalvin Cook to be the bust?
Yes, that's yours. That's one of your right ones. Right. I told you Marquez Valdez-Scantling would kill it. He did. By the way, I think we figured it's QT.
QT.
Like the letters QT pretty much.
QT.
He had a touchdown. I told you Devin Funchess wouldn't do much. He had 50 yards. Austin Hooper, I told you would do well. He had 9 for 77. And I played the Jared Cook rule. Never twice in a row. 4 catches for 20 yards.
That might be
Bust him
the
up.
Isaiah Crowell rule, which we'll get to in a bit. But yeah, I mean, you said Derek Carr would be a sleeper.
Yep. No, that was bad.
Yeah.
That's bad.
See, that's the guy, right?
But what's funny is he's still, now this is not really a good game.
Right.
He's still savaged 268 and a touchdown. 1 touchdown, 1 pick, which is not what you want.
Especially in silly season.
But it's not 170 and 3 picks. You know, he got something.
So he's a good example, though. And I know a lot of people last week, I think I said he was a sleeper, was Blake Bortles. Against Kansas City.
How do you even rate his game? He threw for a ton of yards.
Right.
He had
4 turnovers and 1 touchdown.
1 touchdown, yeah.
So, he didn't have a good game.
But you were on track because did he throw for 400?
430.
He threw for 430. How,
430. So that's 17 points. A touchdown's 23, but then a -5 or a -10 because of 5 turnovers.
Right.
And he ran for 34 and a touchdown. So he had 2 total touchdowns.
Yeah. I mean, that's...
You can live with it.
It's a weird one, but he found a way to get points.
But the point is, that was the kind of guy. He was getting hyped in a lot of other places too. But it's like, okay, so you start him over Wentz or him over Wilson, and it didn't really work out, I would say, in the long term. But that's the moves it comes down to.
And it's much riskier, so why not just start your stuff?
20 plus. Yeah. Yeah. So, we got a few things right.
I just want to make sure. I just want to make sure that, we call ourselves out. We hit a couple things.
We hit a few. I mean, we should hit a few. That's the thing. That's why I don't get excited when I get something right because I'm supposed to. But you're just a fantasy football enthusiast. I'm a senior.
Well, when your actual teams are playing so bad, you go to your podcast notes and you're like, well, I got that right.
Right.
And it's almost like those guys were on my team last week. They weren't, but it was almost like they were.
Well, Derrick Henry was on my team, sadly, and RSJ was on my team until I got freaked out by these wind reports late Saturday.
Love a good wind report.
And so I said, well, why even bother? CJ Beathard can barely throw when it's still. And I went out and got Tyler Kroft. So I was agonizing over 2 tight ends who both scored 0 points.
And that's why you don't agonize over it.
I mean, Tyler Kroft got hurt, but he did return. But still, we'll talk about him a little bit later too. So that was horrible. Well, let's move on. Week 6, full steam ahead. Focus on the task at hand. This is our still unsponsored.
Gotta have a short memory. Gotta have a short memory.
You have to, and you can believe in anything if you achieve it. So, this is our still unsponsored search engine segment. We'll go with What do you want to go with this week?
I don't know. You know so many more search engines than me.
Alta Vista it?
Sure, whatever
it's Alta
you want.
Vista these guys.
It's your segment.
It's Alta Vista these guys. And we're going to start with a couple injured starting running backs. Matt Breida, my boy.
That is your boy. He's your binky.
God, man, that was a tough one to lose because he had like 60 yards and a touchdown in the first
Well, especially
quarter.
after you thought you lost him a couple weeks ago.
Right.
His bad. Dodge that bullet. Probably won't get hurt again.
This guy, what are the odds?
What are the odds?
Indestructible at this point. And Jay Ajayi, out for the year, torn ACL.
Yeah, played on it potentially. Played on it.
Have you ever, and then complained about not getting the ball enough the next day and then was put on IR 3 hours later? And he has a fractured back. And he fumbled on the 5-yard line. So I would say at this point it's a good riddance, Jay, for Eagles fans and fantasy owners. But Breida, have you ever heard the mid-ankle sprain?
No, that's a new one.
We know high.
It's a new one.
We know regular.
Right. Now there's a mid-ankle sprain.
But his was mid to high.
Yeah, the fact that
So a 3/4 ankle sprain.
Yeah, probably not good. But it sounds like they're going out of their way because high is what 4 to 6. We're pretty comfortable
usually.
saying high.
I mean,
is 4 to
Alex
6.
would say 2 years.
Right.
But
Never draft him again.
Oh God.
But
why even live?
I think they're going out of your way. They're going out of their way. I feel like to make people feel like, well, it feels like 2 to 4. Mm-hmm. And that's just me. I'm not a doctor.
Right. You're not.
Not a doctor.
So those guys get hurt. Obviously, Ajayi off the team. Even in dynasty keeper leagues, off.
Wow. Take food off his plate.
Yeah, I'm done. And Breida, though, you're keeping around, hoping he comes back relatively soon, like you said. But now we turn to the backups.
Yep.
Obvious one in San Francisco, which is always nice.
Alfred Morris, boom, owned in only 42% of Yahoo leagues, which seems surprising.
Way too low.
Surprising.
I get that Breida was taken over there, but
he was still splitting. He's still a name.
It's still getting goal line. Very involved. What's the outlook? Because Breida had been sort of becoming more involved in the passing game, which, not a surprise, C.J. Beathard had that stat last year, 76 checkdowns to running backs in 7 games, like ridiculous.
Yeah, Morris is not the best receiver back in the world.
But he doesn't catch the ball, but I feel he's going to just get like 4 catches every week.
He's going to have volume.
3 to 4, that's what he did in this last game.
I mean, even with Breida in the lineup, and I know you said that he was slowly taking over, but 4 of their 5 games, Morris has still had 12 or more carries.
Exactly.
So he's been part of it. So there's no reason to think that he's not going to get, 20 touches?
That's what he got, 21. He got
and
21
the funny
on
thing,
Sunday
San Francisco is staying. They're not, they lost Garoppolo, but they're still staying in games. They're not a train wreck. Beathard's not a train wreck.
They're not horrible. Kittle's making plays every week.
He's going to get goal line if they can get down there. I think I don't think his outlook's that great for this week, but you certainly got to be number 1 waiver claim.
Yeah,
in
much
most leagues,
tougher matchup, but you could potentially have a starting. I mean, actually, I think the next guy we're going to talk about might be number 1, but Morris is. If you have a waiver claim, this is what you've been saving it for: a high waiver claim,
right? A
starting, clear-cut starting running back. But now the next guy isn't as clear-cut as a starter, but more talented to me and more upside, and that's Wendell Smallwood.
Right.
Taking over in Philly.
But it's more talented than Morris, because what matters is probably going to be, is he more talented than Corey Clement?
Yes. Who, inactive 2 weeks ago, last week, apparently this is a new trend, active but doesn't play, which Lamar Miller got too, we'll get to. But now they're like full go, looks good. He was the guy ahead of him on the depth chart before the year.
Yep.
So, as Smallwood, though, is playing well, man. 6 yards
I know, that's the thing. I think it's one of those things where he's one of those guys that gets on the field, knows how to play football, right? Knows how to get yards. And, Clement is the more talented. I'm throwing up some air quotes here.
But I don't even know if he is.
Yeah, I don't even know if he is either, because Smallwood looks good, but
Smallwood
I like Smallwood
had some
too.
hype a couple years ago when he was a rookie, and has done nothing.
The other thing is, too, is Clement stay healthy?
Right.
Because he's had multiple injuries already this year.
Absolutely.
So I like Smallwood, too.
So Smallwood, if he's available, he should be, to me, at least above Clement.
A lot of smart owners already own Smallwood, so they don't even have to go to waivers for him tonight.
Can I get an example of any of those smart owners?
There's one in our league that's got him.
Hey, well, I
forget what his name is.
I got C.J. Anderson.
Juice.
I got Juice.
Because you're a sucker for the Juice guys.
I kind of like having those guys on my team. Like Juice Uzoma. I should pick him up too.
Juice Uzoma.
This might be his week.
That actually sounds like there could be like an Uzoma juice.
Yeah.
That could be some new.
It's like an Amazon berry.
Yeah.
That they just found, and it's a super fruit. Yeah, I can see that. So Clemento should be picked up too. Probably wavered. I would say.
For sure. I think both. I think both should be wavered.
Yeah, and we'll see what happens Thursday. They got They got the quick turnaround and the mini buy.
Can I throw one more? We already talked about them, so just quick hitter. If you had Breida or Ajayi, and you need, I think there's a lot of leagues where Ronald Jones is still out there.
Yeah.
So this is the
coming
week.
Off a bye, guys, sneak through.
Coming off a bye. This is the week to grab him, maybe without waivers, when everyone's going after these other guys. Maybe a little 5 a.m. Idea tomorrow morning. Ooh. Get him before he's got a game though, because value. I mean, value he might be nothing, but value can only go up for him. So,
what % of fantasy owners do you think do the 5 a.m.? Set the alarm, wake up to grab free agents.
In our league,
in our league, it's 100%.
Right. In our league, it's 16%. It's 2 out of 12, I would say.
Jacob does it too. Okay. Fantasy intern. So that's 3 out of 12. So now we're up to what was that? 25%.
That's 25%. Yeah.
I think that's it.
Okay.
Barker's done it before. Yeah. But he always is like, my kid.
Oh yeah, I was up.
Because my kid
was up. Yeah. I don't set a lot of alarms, but if I happen to be awake, I'll hop out of bed and jump on the old computer.
Yeah.
When your wife's a teacher, she's got to get up pretty early.
You got an excuse too.
Kind of say, hey, let me just roll over and make a pickup.
I got nothing, man. I set the alarm and leave my computer open to the page, and it's pathetic. All right, a couple more injuries. The old 2-for-1 here on the same team.
Rams getting knocked out with concussions left and right.
Cooks and Kupp. Cooper Cooks, Brandon Kupp, they're down. Don't know if they're going to play this week. Concussions.
McVay is optimistic, though, but we've heard that before.
Of course he is.
Concussions are tricky, though. We know that.
I've heard that before.
Concussions are tricky.
So the real question is, if they are out, both, what does that mean? Does it hurt? I mean, it doesn't help the Rams offense, obviously, but does it significantly hurt Jared Goff? Does it hurt? This is the week where normally you see that and say, oh man, Robert Woods, huge. This is the week, though, where I don't really want the number one, because Chris Harris is like the one thing the Broncos defense has going for it.
Their defense has been bad.
Last week,
this is
Quincy Enunwa. One thing I got right last week, Quincy Enunwa bust, and he got the goose egg while Robbie Anderson ran wild.
It's not really the week you want 2 of your starting receivers out against at Denver.
Unlike most weeks. Right?
But I think, popular waiver, I'm sure people are going to go after, their wide receiver 4, Josh Reynolds. Yeah, what do you know about him?
He showed up a bit last year, popped in and out, had a couple plays in last week's game. But, I mean, don't you feel, though, the Rams are that offense? It's just who's next, boom, and he gets stats.
Well, what I found interesting was, so he had
kind of like the Saints.
He had 2 catches out of 3 targets for 39 yards. And again, I don't watch the game, so I don't know how this play unfolded. What I thought interesting was that he had a 10-yard rush.
Right.
So not saying he's going to get rushes, but they clearly obviously like him as a playmaker. If I assume it was a reverse.
They do those every week.
Yeah.
Kupp, Wood, sometimes Cooks. I mean, I feel Rams wide receivers, you don't necessarily know who, but you can count on at least 3 carries. And they always get like 10 yards.
So to me, that's a sign that they trust him and that they're willing to just pop him into someone else's place. Because I don't think you see it. He's a second-year guy, but he hasn't played much. He's a second-year guy, right? But he hasn't played much, giving those guys, carries. Run some routes, get open, do what you can do. So I thought that was interesting. Yeah. And that could be a positive sign. The other thing, if those guys both are out, I think you could look at their tight ends. Higbee and Everett.
Maybe. Yeah,
just more targets for more people.
Denver's terrible against tight ends.
Yeah,
so that is a reason to.
So if you need a tight end, we've talked about how thin the tight ends are. Although there's a couple coming back this week possibly, but there's a couple of guys. If those guys are out, could get some extra targets.
And I feel like Higbee's very much a goal line guy, but Everett's athletic. He can do some stuff over the middle.
Yeah, doesn't sound athletic. Gerald Everett doesn't sound.
Well, Josh Reynolds isn't a good name either.
Doesn't sound athletic, but
no, bad names for those guys. But yeah, definitely something to watch. All right, another running back, mentioned him earlier, the active but not playing, Lamar Miller. Obviously, Alfred Blue came
so
in.
Frustrating. Lamar Miller.
They all are. That whole backfield is. And Alfred Blue, 28 touches, I believe he had.
Our second Alfred mention.
I know.
Podcast. A couple Alfreds
big
running
week
wild.
For the Elves. So we said this last week. We know Alfred Blue's not very good.
Nope. When he had that long reception, I was shocked.
Yeah.
Because I've owned Lamar Miller many a time, and I've handcuffed him with Alfred Blue, and I've needed things from Alfred Blue. I've never seen him that fast. I was like, whoa, who is that guy?
I know. That's a weird one.
But he still threw out 20 for 46, though.
Right, exactly. And that's an Alfred Blue line. Yep. And now they're saying, hey, Lamar Miller's going to play this week, but I can't imagine it's more than a than a split. I don't think it's just going to be Miller.
He never really dominated carries anyway.
No, but he had gotten 14 touches in every game, so he was getting pretty good volume.
Yeah, I always feel like it's 2 series on for Miller and 1 off, which isn't like and he doesn't do a ton with them. So I think the guy there, which we've talked about, again, this would be an Alex, don't even waste my time, but Dante Foreman, sorry, said could be active, week 7?
I think that's when he's eligible, but I've heard radio silence about him.
I don't know. I've read some things that say he should be fine as soon as he's eligible. So there's a guy to maybe stash. You can probably, depending on your league, even pick him up and throw him in an IR slot for another week or 2. If you're a smart owner and you like to use roster configuration to your advantage.
Roster bait, yeah.
I'm thinking Foreman more than Blue.
Right. But right now it's a mess. They have a great matchup this week against the Bills, so you're going to want to play Miller if he's active, but Blue might be just as good, and that just as good might be nothing more than flex-worthy.
They're both going to kind of eat away at each other's production, I think. Neither one of them is very good, and they're going to
line can't block. I think that's more important than anything, is the line can't block. Deshaun Watson's just a video game player. He just wants to chuck it.
Yep.
And now he's got receivers, so why not? So, yeah, that's a bad situation. The guy last night, he didn't break any records, I guess, but was on the receiving end of a record-breaking throw.
A catch he'll never forget.
The most, not since Strahan-Favre has an NFL play looked more staged. And I'm not saying it was.
Didn't you see them show us the play design at least 5 times, though?
Not saying it was.
That didn't sell you?
But nothing has looked more staged. We both have relatives who love to play so bookies called this one in.
Yeah, you think that was called in?
It looked like
Who called that in? Goodell? The bookies aren't calling that in.
Yeah, the bookies.
The guy who had the certificate ready to go?
He clearly.
Did he have to go home at halftime and he needed to?
He didn't spend all that time laminating not to give that away in the first half. So anyway, Traquan Smith, rookie receiver. No Ted Ginn. Gets his chance. He looked good. I know he only caught 3 balls on 3 targets, but there's sometimes you watch it and you go, that looks like a guy.
He looks fast.
Who should be catching passes in the NFL.
Unlike Gerald Everett, Traquan Smith sounds fast.
Yeah, I don't need to hear anything more on that. Look good, though. And, they have a bye this week, so it's one of those don't use a waiver claim on a guy who's going to have a bye. And if Ginn is back, is he anything? Ginn's a weird injury, though. It sounds like he might be out for a little while, but no one really knows.
Yeah, my thing is the Saints historically have supported multiple receivers.
Sure,
right?
But they're a different offense.
But maybe they were a different offense because they only trust
Traquan Smith.
Well, they only they were looking for someone else to emerge besides Michael Thomas. So maybe this guy gains a little more trust. Is he worth a waiver wire pickup?
Not waiver, but free.
5 a.m. Now we're gonna have 3. No. So there's gonna be waivers from now, and there's gonna be waivers. Yeah. 5 a.m. and when I get around to it.
Right. He's a when I get around to it, I think. Just because they have the bye. If they were playing this week, maybe 5 a.m.
Definitely screams 1 week wonder, though, in terms of 2 TDs, 100 yards.
We've seen it, but only 3 targets. We've seen it, but again, Cam Meredith was finally getting some targets.
He had the ball way too much for my liking. I had Michael Thomas last night. I needed him to win, and he
fumbled.
Didn't do much. It's annoying. Does wear the Jordan 11s, though.
Which is cool.
Which is very cool.
But with the Saints, just in general, the Ingram-Kamara thing was just bizarre.
I don't have either one, but I was going against Ingram. It was so frustrating. If I was a Kamara owner last night, I would have been pulling my hair out.
So I think what they were doing is they said, look, we have this guy. This is our Ferrari that's been in the garage. He's fresh. We got this other guy we've been overworking to death.
Yep.
So switch it off. We're good either playing the Redskins. We're not worried. And we got a bye. Kamara essentially gets
2 weeks off.
Damn near 2 weeks off.
Yep.
And so
I agree. I think they were totally resting him last night.
Yeah. So now you look ahead and, as a fantasy owner, you're like, well, what's going to happen? I would imagine Kamara comes out of the bye as the quote-unquote lead back, but it's probably 50-50.
Man, I don't know. I'm leaning more 50-50 after that display last night. I thought they might throw Kamara a bone last night, but
they tried to. They tried,
but then they were right back to Taysom Hill?
Taysom Hill.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't think they have anything against Kamara, but I think they're all about Splitting carry, spreading it around, keeping people healthy.
They're one of those damn teams that cares more about winning in real life than fantasy teams.
All I know is through 5 weeks.
Selfish pricks.
Through 5 weeks, I had to go against Brees and Kamara, the silly season week of 5 TDs, and I don't even know how many catches Kamara.
Yeah.
Then I had to go through last night, same league, with Ingram throwing up 2 TDs coming off suspension against me.
And
Very
the other
frustrating.
one, the Will Lutz.
And I got Lutz one week that had 4 or 5 field goals. 3 out of the 5 weeks in the same league.
Yeah, you gotta avoid
I've
Saints.
just been burnt by the Saints, and I have Thomas.
Yeah, you got to avoid them.
I'm becoming less and less enthusiastic about football, fantasy football, every
I don't
week.
blame you, man. You got to get a certificate.
No.
I don't know what that'll do, but I think we all need those.
I almost made you a certificate for the podcast. When you finished it, but not sooner than that. When you finished it, I was going to hand you a certificate. But
no, that always makes it official.
I didn't have any lamination paper or machine, whatever that is.
Yeah. I wonder if they had to get that notarized. I don't know how that works, but
it's a stamp on it, a seal.
Yeah. All right. Final guy has been trending, and I think this might just be more because he has a weird name. People are like, "What? That doesn't sound real. Is this from a Key and Peele sketch?" Marquez Valdes-Scantling.
Listen, props to people who can search him properly, though. If you can get all that out into your, what are we on?
Yeah.
What kind of search are we doing this week?
Alta Vista.
If you can get that in your Alta Vista search,
yeah, your Alta Vista browser.
You're a good fantasy owner.
Well, but it's funny. Not even the weirdest wide receiver name on his own team.
St. Brown? That's not weird.
Well, Equanimous.
I'm glad you said it.
So the funny thing about them, I think it's because there's a bunch of boys. They've all big time college players, and I think Equanimous's middle name is Amon-Ra. And then his brother, who's a stud freshman at USC, is first name Amon-Ra.
What's his middle name, though?
I don't remember for sure, but it's weird to read.
Maybe we should Alta Vista his brother.
We should. Yeah, I'll have to install that on my computer. But it's weird that you take the middle name and re-loop it for the first name when it's not John.
Right.
It's Amon-Ra. But anyway, all the better. They're cool. But yeah, so Valdes-Scantling caught a touchdown, had a second one that was called back. He was like a yard short, just missed out on it. And obviously that was due to Randall Cobb, Geronimo Allison being out. But both could be out again.
Listen,
or one. And even if just one is out.
Let's keep it simple. Look at who the Packers have active at receiver. Look who I won't even say look who they're starting. You can pretty much figure out their depth chart, right, at this point. 3. So if you have one of their top 3 and it's a pretty good matchup, use them.
That's it. That's all you need.
Use them. We can go back to when it was Jordy, Cobb, and Adams. And I remember,
Go back before that, James Jones it.
And it was, Rodgers would throw one each.
Yep.
Throw one each every week. So these guys, just next man up.
Right, pretty much. And so is Valdes-Scantling, is MVS, waiver wire.
Almost had 2 TDs.
I know. I said that.
Oh, did you?
Why don't you listen?
I don't listen.
You think about that certificate. Is MVS waiver wire, 5 a.m., or when I get around to it?
He should have already been at minimum 5 a.m. last week.
Because you recommended him.
Well, not even, listen, I'm not going to toot my own horn, okay?
Right.
But he should have, and we knew that those guys weren't going to play last week. He should have been wavered or 5 a.m. last week.
Right.
If he's out there now, it's weird though, right? If he's out there now,
I feel he's getting wavered.
It's not necessarily wavered. He will get wavered, but if those guys come back, he could drop right back down to wide receiver 4.
And you're like, I don't want to use a waiver claim.
You may have...
which is what I think happened with a lot of people with QT. Because it was like, wow, that was just because Will Fuller was out, right? And so maybe they let him slide through in free agency.
Right.
And then we see a game with Fuller back, and it's like, oh, he doubled them in targets and yards, and he might be their number 2, and Fuller's just sort of a deep threat speed guy.
Right.
And now all of a sudden you wish you had used the waiver on him.
I think Fuller was not 100%.
Maybe.
Out there as a decoy or just whatever out there.
But honestly, I think that's a team that can support 3 too.
Probably, because their running game is trash.
I think QT's definitely worth having.
Yeah.
QT. All right, let's get to sleepers and busts.
Do we have to?
Yeah, we have to. We got to try, man. That's what people want to hear. They want to. I feel people want to hear you be wrong.
Do they?
Unless they follow your advice.
Not if they want to use those people.
Yeah, but it's funny.
Is it?
We're way off, and then people can feel smarter than us. Which
do we have comments enabled on YouTube?
Oh God, are you kidding? No.
Good.
That wouldn't end well. All right.
Well, then predict away.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, we don't have to face any consequences for this other than
I'll just not show up next week. I'll just not show up next week.
Yeah, apparently that's anyone can do that whenever they want, except me, because my name's in the intro.
Is he still getting paid for this week?
Yeah, $62,000.
Oh, wow.
I know.
God, podcast people make a lot of money.
God, we do. We're rich. All right. My quarterback.
This is low-hanging fruit if I've ever seen it.
But they both are. Both our picks are low-hanging fruit at sleeper because, again, there's not many choices. Jameis Winston. Just dive right back in. His first start of the year and playing the Falcons in the Dome.
Falcons don't play a ton of D.
They're really bad at it. And
they're the best kind of no-D team, too, because they score.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, at home they score.
Yeah, so you got to keep throwing
on
against
the road
them.
They don't. And then also the Bucs don't play D.
Right.
So it's the perfect.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone like DFS, everyone got pumped for that Steelers-Falcons game. And I said, this feels like a trap. Didn't stop me from putting Calvin Ridley and Julio Jones and Matt Ryan in lineups. And I also said, I think the Falcons are a different team outdoors. And so far this year, it's only 2 games, but they have been.
The Steelers came through in that game.
Maybe it's the state of, yes, they did. Maybe it's the state of Pennsylvania that the Falcons just.
You didn't actually expect Julio Jones to score a touchdown, did you?
I know, how dare I?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Still finished with like 96 yards, even though he didn't have a catch for like three quarters.
Always does.
Yeah. So, but this week, Winston, it's an obvious one, but I do think it'll pay off.
Of course you do.
Every Falcons.
That's why it's obvious.
Every quarterback that's faced the Falcons except Nick Foles in week 1 has thrown for 3 touchdowns.
That's a really bad defense.
I mean, look, they're, Ben Roethlisberger and Drew Brees, and they've certainly faced some good ones. And who else did they face? But, did they face Cam? Did Cam do it? I can't remember.
They've played the Panthers.
Right.
I don't remember what Cam did against them.
Whoever it was threw for 3 touchdowns. Yeah. But the point is.
Yeah, and like we said before, Bucs don't really have a running game. So bad defense, no running game, and opposing team not being able to stop the pass.
Right.
It's a recipe for some fantasy points.
Everything. Well, what's yours then?
Well, listen, you're going to go against the Falcons. I'm going to go against the Steelers. I'm going to go Andy Dalton at home against the Steelers. Steelers are giving up second most fantasy points to quarterbacks. Their pass defense not that great. They put up points on their own. Bengals have a bit of a running game, but that's fine. Dalton's been playing well.
But their running back is good in the receiving game.
Yeah. So I've got Dalton. He's had 2 or more TDs in all but 1 game this year, and he's got 240 yards or more in every game this year. So
yeah. So I do wonder this.
It's a little bit of an uptick from Dalton in the past.
We see this every year where a defense will start slow, 3-4 games, and they'll be bad, and we'll say, that's a defense to pick on. Mm-hmm. And then they play well for like 3-4 weeks. And after we all get burned 3 weeks in a row, and then it's like, they've improved, which can happen. I know it's tough to believe. Right. Teams can improve in season. Whatever it is, promoting players, changing schemes. I do wonder if the Steelers might be a team like that.
Well, it's so weird, right? Because we're used to the Steelers having good defenses. Right. So it doesn't take much to be like, they're figuring it out. Mm-hmm. They're figuring it out. Plus the weather gets cold. They're an outdoor team.
Right. So, I agree. My DFS lineups, I'm taking the bait again. I got a Dalton Tyler Boyd stack in one. I got a Mixon AJ Green stack in another. So I'm just all in, which is dumb. But to have that many anyway. But yeah, them, and the other one is the Chiefs. I made fun of it about the Chiefs correspondent who had the stat about when the game's within 7 points, they allow the second fewest yards per play. So they're not as bad as you think. It's just because they're blowing
Sounds
teams
like
out.
a bend but don't break philosophy.
Right, but maybe I think their defense might be a little better
the Steelers and the Chiefs are both similar in that they have great offenses. Mm-hmm. So we've talked about this before. It's tough to hold another team down when you're scoring a ton of points.
Right.
There's more possessions. You have a bigger lead, just human nature. Right. So, I think there's offense to be had there.
Yeah, so we'll see. All right, bust. We literally get it wrong every week, right? I don't know why we do it, but we're doing it.
I'm not doing it.
You're going to do it.
I'm not going to do it.
Nah, you'll do it.
I might just quit. I might just retire. I might Vontae Davis
forego that $62K a podcast.
Well, I've done about half the podcast, so I should still get 31.
Yeah, I don't know if it works like that, but all right. Because I have balls, I'll make my pick, and I'm going all in on Cam Newton.
Okay.
And which is, I made this pick before last night's game, and as I was watching Drew Brees not throw any incompletions,
right? Change your mind a little bit.
God,
that game was fixed last night, though.
It was. Bookies called that one in. We all know it. And just like we all know Aaron Rodgers has a torn ACL. It's getting better, but
it was a bone bruise. It's a bone bruise.
It was a torn ACL.
I'm not sure it was.
But yeah, the Redskins had been good through 3 games against quarterbacks. And, look, that was a buzzsaw last night. Right? I mean, jokes aside about it being fixed, but it was a buzzsaw.
Sure.
How many times have we seen good defenses go down to the Superdome and just...
Go down to the bayou?
Yeah, there you go. Were you trying to do an impression there?
Nope.
You almost felt like you were going to do one. Cajun.
That's what I wanted you to think.
All right, you tricked me. I fell for it. But, yeah, it's just a Monday night.
Oh,
Drew
yeah.
Brees,
Oh, yeah.
It's good. Like, it's just a buzzsaw.
Surprised there wasn't a punt blocked.
Right, and they just buzzed right through it.
Like a saw.
But, right, like a saw. I did the motion of a saw, too.
Can't wait till this gets on video.
Oh, God, that's going to add a whole other element. But I just keep looking at it and thinking, all right, game's on the road. I don't like that. But it is a short week for the Redskins, and are they, just morally destroyed after that? I don't know, but Cam's always been up and down. So predicting a bust or a big game from him is never crazy.
Still tough to see him not find his way to 200 yards and 2 touchdowns somehow.
Well, yes, whether one's running or one's not. He's getting Greg Olsen back. We'll talk a little bit more about him. So there's reasons to like him and not think he'll bust, but this is more a bust relative to other quarterbacks you could play.
Gotcha.
That's what it is. So, I don't know. I'm trying to think who we have in that 10, 11, 12, because it's so easy to go down the list and name 10 quarterbacks who are just we got to play Brady, you got to play Rivers, you got to play Mahomes, you got to play Rodgers, you got to play, Ryan, you got to play Stafford.
Yep. Cousins, Goff.
Cousins is locking. Goff, lock. Yeah. So now all of a sudden you are down to about 11.
Right.
And maybe he's not a starter.
Yeah.
And then we got Dalton.
Even Andrew Luck, who threw for however many yards against Pats.
And we like Dalton a lot. I'd play Dalton over Cam this week. Would I trust Winston over him? I'm not sure just because it's his first start, but matchup-wise, I should. Wilson. Back on Wilson in London against the Raiders. Yeah, I'd take Wilson over Cam.
Sloppy field in London, though.
That's what we always hear. Oh, all that travel? Are you kidding me? Wentz. I'm playing Wentz over him against the Giants. So, yeah, all of a sudden now he's down 14-15. And so that's why I'm calling him a bust, even though I don't think he's, going to just totally fall on his face. So your bust pick you're officially entering right now.
I'm not picking one. I'm abstaining.
But what if I made you pick one with a gun?
I'm just going to qualify this one. If the 2 Rams receivers are out.
Okay.
If they're out.
I know where this is going.
I'll throw Goff in there again.
So the second time in 3 weeks.
I'll throw Goff in there again. Because at Denver, on the road, if those 2 receivers are out.
Right.
We just saw the Jets absolutely shred Denver's run defense.
And we saw the Chiefs do it the week before.
With Isaiah Crowell and Bilal Powell. Mm-hmm. If those 2 receivers are out, I could see them running the ball. Options are limited. Goff still probably throws, I'm sure he throws for over 200 yards. Probably still throws a touchdown or so. But I could see him having Cam Newton type stats next week.
Definitely sit Goff is what you're telling people.
No, because if those 2 receivers do play, then I'll just say I'll go back to Wentz at the Giants on a short week. Giants secondary has been playing pretty well. They're not allowing a lot of points to quarterbacks or receivers, so I'll go back to that.
Definitely sit Goff and Wentz.
Right, definitely.
Okay, got it.
Mark it down, write it down, fast forward to next week when we're talking about how stupid that
We heard you.
was.
We heard you say it. All right,
or next week, just give me first pick.
Nah.
You get to go through all the stats first and take all your guys, and then I got to find somebody else.
It's easier for me that way.
Yeah.
I make less than you. I only make $58K an episode. I know I do all this heavy lifting. All right, running back. We already talked about him, Smallwood. I'm going back in. Like I said, there are questions about whether it's Clement or him. Who's going to get more? I definitely think this week it'll be Smallwood.
Why? Because it's a short week.
He's healthier, and he's been playing better. Or just playing, period, and then playing pretty well within that. So, yeah, I like him this week. The Giants, they're okay, but they're not very good at run defense. And I think he can get at them. And look, Wentz just hasn't looked good. He hasn't looked good all year, and he's finished with some 300-plus yard games and some good stats. But at this point, I think they got to take pressure off him and try to establish a running game that they just haven't been able to do.
Maybe I should make Wentz my bust instead and just throw the Goff thing out.
You said both for sure.
Yeah, both.
Goff, 100%.
Got it. I just won't show up.
Worst pick of the week.
I just won't show up next week.
So you'd rather play Josh Allen than him. I heard it. All right. And then I also like someone on the Bucs. I actually think for a team that hasn't been able to do anything on the ground, this is the week.
Wow.
How's that for helping out? Play them both. No, I hope it's Peyton Barber because I think I'm starting him, which feels awful. But
that should.
Yeah, based on that. But Atlanta's so bad. Like, they just get gashed on the ground by everyone.
Right.
So if they split carries and get 10 each.
That's 22 yards for Barber.
Well, if one of those is falling face first into the end zone, I'll live with it. But I don't know.
By the way, that when Alex tried to sell 10 carries for 29 yards that Jones had 2 weeks ago as a positive.
Emerging. Yeah, look at that. No, but again, the usage is what matters, and he did have more touches, so that's going to be a situation to watch. Who do you like?
All right, so speaking of usage, I'm going to go with Buck Allen at Tennessee. It was pretty good rush defense, but we want to talk about last week. Allen outsnapped Collins 50-27 in a field goal game, right? Mm-hmm. So the game was never out of hand. It was what? Were they tied at was it 3-0, 3-3, 6-3, 6-6? So the game was never out of hand, and he outtouched Alex Collins 50-27. He outtouched him 14-13. He had 78 total yards. He seems to have most of the goal line carries, most of the passing down work. If you can't run on the Titans and they got to throw a little more, this is the guy that's going to be in the game.
Well, here's some interesting inside the numbers stats on the Titans.
Let's go inside the numbers.
No running back touchdowns allowed this year.
Okay.
That's, not going to last.
So Buck Allen's due.
Yeah, well, someone's due, that's for sure.
Yep.
Then, so you just look at their fantasy points against running backs, it's super low. They're 29th, right? But then, what are their rushing yards allowed to running backs? 19.5 carries a game, 95.5 yards. Mm-hmm. So they're not even really playing the run that well at all. I mean,
there's yards there.
That's damn near 5 yards a carry.
Right.
They're really shutting down running backs in the receiving game. 24 receiving yards a game. So you'd think, okay, well, that works against Allen, but I actually think he can pick up yards on the ground. He's going to do what he does as a receiver. And, a team overdue to allow a rushing touchdown or any kind of touchdown to a back. So, yeah, I like that pick. It just seems like we're getting close to the Buck Allen takeover.
Yeah, I don't know if they'll ever really be a full-on takeover, but 50-27 snaps.
It's noticeable.
That's a significant in a tie game, field goal game.
It's interesting. I think you look around the league, there's a lot of these guys who profile as a receiving back, and they are kind of taking over. I mean,
because it's a passing league, man.
Well, yeah, but obviously we had Nyheim Hines.
In today's NFL, it's a passing league.
It is true in today's NFL, but we had Nyheim Hines, who looks like. I'll be interested to see if Marlon Mack really is back this week, if he takes any touches, or if Nyheim Hines, because Nyheim Hines is not big enough to handle 20 touches a game.
Well, if you watch, he's not running the ball well at all.
No one can run the ball well on that team. So I don't blame him per se. Passes. But yeah, 20 touches a game, he's not going to last. So I do think his usage will come back once Mack's healthy. But some of these, what we saw before the bye, Tariq Cohen, where's he sit? We know Lewis has been doing it all year. James White's been performing all year. Bilal Powell, we'll talk about him in a second, is getting more carries than Isaiah Crowell and has been way more consistent in just terms of yards and touches. And so we're seeing it's kind of weird, and I kind of wonder if teams are just, you know what?
There's more space in the field when you have your receiving personnel in. There's more space to run.
And now this is the real ironic one: is it feels like Kenyon Drake now is a third down / receiving back.
I don't know what's going on.
And he's better in that role.
All I know is I was following that game online, and I just see the carry numbers, and I see Gore, whatever it was, at one 5-1, 8-2, whatever the numbers were. I just can't. It's not. He's not giving. Gore seems like he's the starting running back here.
He doubled him in carries. I think it was 12-6. But Kenyon Drake, 11 targets, 7 catches, 70 yards, a touchdown.
And he did stuff with him. So get him the ball.
That's what I'm saying. But I actually think this role is better. But he's basically a receiving back. And people drafted him like he's a 20-touch a game RB1. I don't know. All those situations bear watching. All right, Bus, I already sort of talked about Isaiah Crowell.
You don't think he's going to do that again?
It's, this year, big week 1. Dog shit week 2, big week 3, even worse week 4.
This sounds like the Jared Cook rule.
It pretty much seems that way. Now, I don't know if he's going to... The thing that worries me isn't that pattern. It's that Bilal Powell got 20 carries and Crowell got 15. And I just don't think you can trust him, no matter.
He did this a couple of times last year, right? At least for the big runs. Like, he can pop a big run. Mm-hmm. But then he doesn't do a ton with the rest of his carries.
No, I mean, 2 weeks ago, 4 carries, 0 yards. Like, what do you do with that?
It's not.
How do you trust that guy?
I can get 4 carries. 0. I can get 0 yards on less carries.
You'd lose yards, though, on 4 carries. You'd be a negative.
Probably.
Yeah. And the Colts...
Fall forward, though.
I feel like maybe. Always falling forward. The Colts have a reputation of being a very bad defense. But
they've earned that reputation, I feel like.
Well, not this year. Pretty good this year. And you look at the Colts, again, a little inside the numbers, 23.3 carries a game to running backs, 84.3 yards. That's not good. And then this is the big one. They allow 7 catches a game and 60.3 receiving yards to running backs.
Patriots probably didn't help them last
James
week.
White inflated that. Of course he did. But I think that's kind of interesting, and that would profile then as a Bilal Powell game. But you look at Chris Thompson, 13 for 92 against him in week 2. Joe Mixon in week 1, 5 for 54. This is receiving yards. Smallwood and Clement combined 6 for 54 against him in week 3. And then James White, 10 for 77. Feels like you can get to him through the air. That's Bilal Powell. So I like him a lot better this week than Isaiah Crowell. And to me, Isaiah Crowell possibly on your bench.
That sounds like good process.
And then bad results. That's how fantasy football works. What do you got? Who don't you like?
Well, we said before, you got to make him your waiver claim, possibly number 1. At worst, number 2 is Alfred Morris at Green Bay. It's kind of unfortunate when you get a guy who is going to be an injury replacement. He's an okay historical back. You know he's going to get volume.
Yeah, a lot of touches.
But then he goes on the road at Green Bay, who they're top 10 in fantasy points against to running backs. I believe they're number 8. They're probably going to be behind. Game script doesn't really help them out there. I think, depending on your situation, you might have to start Morris, but it's one of those deals where he's going to be the hot waiver claim, but then he might throw up a dud.
Sucks.
Might just throw up a dud. It would be nice to see him playing the Falcons or something like that.
I wish I had him, though. Are you claiming him for sure?
Yes.
Damn it.
Happy to trade him to you, though. Happy to.
I need something. Shouldn't even be on our waiver wire. That was such a dumb drop.
That was a Vinny Iyer drop for a kicker at around noon
instead of
Sunday.
dropping Tayshawn Taylor.
Yep.
Come on. Yep. We're better than that.
And then as I saw the transaction, I was like,
better than that.
I wonder if that's going to bite him. Sure enough.
That day.
Yeah.
That makes me mad. We're better than that. All right, wide receivers. I'm going back to the Antonio Callaway as a sleeper. Shard Higgins, who had been playing over him. There's that weird thing last week where Hugh Jackson's like, we need to play Callaway less. It's like, what? And then
he's been doing great things, but we need to play him less.
What a weirdo. 2 wins, though. He's got 2 wins. And then Higgins is like all over the field. It's like, really, this guy? But Higgins gets hurt. So he's out. I feel they have no choice but to play Callaway. I'm sure Hugh Jackson can find a way not to play him. But
Dez Bryant's not walking through that door.
No, I love the matchup. Chargers allowing fourth most. And this is I made this comparison in the rankings article. I immediately qualified it, but yeah, Chargers fifth most fantasy points to wide receivers. And you know who killed them? Who's a similar type to Callaway?
Who killed him?
Speedster.
A comp?
Tyreek Hill.
Player comp? Okay.
But that means I'm comparing Mahomes to Mayfield and Hill to Callaway.
Makes sense to me.
We're pretty store brand instead of name brand when we're making those comparisons. Mm-hmm. This is like comparing, Dr. Wham to Dr. Pepper, and I don't want to do that.
A little Mountain Lightning.
Oh, yeah, I got it. Or cola.
Cola.
Coca-Cola. Red label cola.
Hey, I'll have a cola.
Yeah, I'll have that cola in a red label. Never a blue label. No one ever tries to pass themselves off as Pepsi.
Why would they?
I like Pepsi better than Coke. I don't even care.
Wow.
But
I disagree on that, but
I mean, I get it. Coca-Cola, most recognizable brands in the world.
But I really like cola.
Cola's great. You ever have cola on a hot day? It's just the best. You see those Coke commercials where they're like, they do different foods. Like one thing about pizza, it's like, oh, pineapple on a thin crust, and then it's like, one thing though goes best with a Coke.
I mean, it sure does.
And they do that with tacos. They do that with burgers. I think even barbecue. What would cola be?
What would cola go good with?
But
all the same things Coke goes good with.
I know, but it had.
But you know what it does? I'd rather but it has not go good with. Like,
hold on.
Go ahead.
It has to be like meat. It's just everything's super generic.
Oh, okay, now I got you. Now
yeah, potato.
Right.
Not even a specific food. Just
right.
Right. That's what it's got to be.
I'm gonna say though, Coke doesn't go good with pasta.
That's true.
That's not something I want Coke. Or like, I don't really want Coke with desserts like cake or cupcakes.
Well, no, it's all too sweet. Who has soda with dessert? Unless you have soda as dessert or root beer float. It can also be a Coke float.
Not a huge fan.
Cola float, though. That ain't selling.
Who does that?
On my Coke float? Or my Cola float? No. All right, so Callaway, I think, is going to have a good game. Speedster, make a big play. It only takes one. Definition of it only takes one guy.
He definitely is that.
Cooks, by the way, Brandon Cooks, again, we're going pretty store brand, but 7 for 90 against the Chargers, too. So Speedsters, they have trouble containing.
Got it. Well, I'm going to go with Keelan Cole at the Cowboys. Cowboys are okay pass defense. This is more based on the fact that with Fournette out again, even with Corey Grant out, which I know didn't seem like a big deal, but it's just another body not at running back. Jags are down to Yeldon at running back.
And?
I know they just signed, this just in, breaking news, they just signed Jamal Charles, who I'm sure is going to contribute a ton this weekend. But anyway, my point is, Jags are going to have to continue the trend of throwing. We talked about Bortles before. He threw for over 400 yards last week. I feel like Cole's the number one guy. Definitely look for Moncrief, even Alex's boy, D.D. Westbrook. I just think this is a play on the Jaguars wide receivers. As long as Fournette's out and they've got one running back, I think they're going to continue to air it out. We saw the target. We talked about the target numbers earlier. There's targets to be had there. There's yards to be had there. They have to throw. Even Austin Seferian-Jenkins is out.
Right. But Niles Paul's kind of intriguing.
He is.
But yeah, there's nothing in the numbers that point to Cole except for what you're saying. And the fact of the matter is the numbers often don't bear out. So there's nothing wrong with sort of looking toward team narratives as opposed to opponent narratives.
I'd call it a little bit less than a hunch. It's not quite just a dart throw.
Yeah.
I just think what we've seen is when Fournette's not there, they have to throw the ball a lot.
Yeah, I think that's the key.
And the interceptions don't hurt the receivers.
Team narratives can trump opposition narratives, like more than I think people care to admit. So, all right, bust. This one is kind of low-hanging fruit, probably being too reactionary, but I'll say Will Fuller.
Which Will Fuller, though?
The fourth.
Really?
Fifth. Yeah, I always forget. There's who's fourth now?
I don't know.
There's a fourth. Well,
was Willie Snead the fourth?
I think he might be. And also in the NBA, Lonnie Walker the fourth. He just got hurt. So yeah, we're all over the board with those. It's getting out of hand.
So Will Fuller's 1 through 4 play him?
No,
but Will
sit them
5?
too.
Okay.
So no, he's not really any different from Callaway. Only he's on a better offense. So and he's decent, man. I mean, the Bills. See, with the Bills, it's funny because you look and you say, like, well, they're 29th in fantasy points allowed to wide receivers, so bad matchup. But I feel like the Bills are just not good.
They're not.
So that number to me, I almost throw out. And, Fuller's big play guy, only takes one, yada, yada, yada. But I do think that this QD thing is for real. The thing that might not be for real and could easily work in Fuller's favor is the fact that Ryan Griffin got 9 targets last week. And if all of a sudden that drops to 3... which could happen because it's Ryan Griffin.
Right. I was going to talk about him later.
Yeah, I know. I stole your thunder. Did it on purpose. Wanted to get credit for that. And all of a sudden, Fuller's up to 7, and he catches 5 of them. And we know him and Watson connect for touchdowns all the time.
Right.
But
I'd be a little scared this is a bust pick, only because I feel like last week was the week that he probably took his kind of sit-out week, rest the hammy, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But hey, man, you're the fantasy expert.
Yeah, well, not after last week, so.
I'm going to go for, as my bust, Alshon Jeffrey. I'm going to continue to beat that short week narrative. But he didn't, he had 2 catches last week.
Well, that's what I said last week. I was just like, yeah, great debut. People are excited, and then he's going to go throw up a dud because that's just what he does.
Yeah, and again, I'm focusing on that Giants pass defense. It's specifically Janoris Jenkins, who's held some guys down this year. The 4th best to wide receivers in fantasy points against. Jeffrey maybe still coming back, short week, tough to kind of recuperate in a short week coming off an injury. So I'm going to say he's going to bust.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I don't mind that pick. Nelson Aguilar's got to do something eventually instead of catching 3-yard passes.
You keep telling yourself that.
No, hey, he's off my team. I traded him for Trey Burton. It's one of the few things I think I've done right this year. And then, Trey Burton was on bye, and I had 0 from a tight end last week. So
might as well just play Burton.
It really would have saved me a headache. Of being like, why isn't Croft in? Where's Croft? Is he hurt? I'm spending all Sunday afternoon searching on Twitter about Tyler Croft. All right, tight end. Speaking of this horrible position.
Sit on this one for 2 weeks. I know you have.
Well, Yeah, I am, but we'll start with you because we're talking about Tyler Kroft.
Oh, you want to segue in?
Yeah, well,
to Juice
Uzomah?
Juice Uzomah?
The Juice Ooze?
Yeah, if Kroft is out, I like Juice Uzomah this week. It's pretty much the only game in town in terms of tight ends in Cincinnati. We talked about them going against Steelers in what should be an offensive game. Second worst fantasy points against are the Steelers. Last week I told you to play Austin Hooper against them. He gave you 9 for 77. This week I'm telling you to play Juice Uzomah.
Jim Kramer all of a sudden? What's going on?
I told you to play Juice here.
Yeah.
And you know what? If you want a bonus one, even though we had a bad week last week,
cocky.
Vance McDonald in the same game, the Bengals can't guard tight ends either. So, you know what?
Extravaganza.
Tune on that. If you're a tight end fan, tune on Steelers.
Bye.
Tune into the Steelers and Bengals on Sunday, and you're going to see some seam routes.
Are you cutting promos for CBS? Good Lord. All right. Well, that's
Listen,
good.
I'm an enthusiast, okay? I'm a tight end enthusiast.
You sure
I'm
are.
known to be a tight end whisperer in my day.
That's true. I'm a jaded...
People say that, you know.
No one says that. I'm a jaded fantasy writer, but I'm just, again, I'm going low-hanging fruit. I'm going for the Buck stack, the Winston braid. I like
you
that.
You want to talk narratives between Fitzpatrick likes OJ Howard and Winston likes Cameron
Which is the
Brate.
opposite of what you'd think, not because of race, but because of the Big 12, or the Big 12, because of the Ivy League connection that Brate
That they completely should have. And where's Schefter telling us about that one?
Yeah, not there.
So tell me about Cameron Brate.
Yeah.
Tell me why you've been waiting 2 weeks to tell me to play Cameron Brate.
I mean, it's a good matchup.
Oh, okay.
And Howard's out. It's a good matchup. Howard's out, and Winston and him seem to have a rapport. That's it. I mean, it's too easy of a narrative. It's too lazy.
Lazy analysis.
So it won't work.
It's lazy
And
analysis.
He's competing with a bunch of other talented receivers.
Right.
But like we said, they can't run. So
Stack them up.
it's gonna be up and down game. So yeah, we'll go.
No one gets up and down more than Cameron Brate.
Few do. And so for my bust, I'm gonna say Olsen. I don't. He's not 100%. He's gonna have to have surgery at the end of the year.
Yeah, it's such a weird one.
Feels like he's rushing back.
Yeah.
This is a team that's been good against tight end. I think the Saints tight end got a 1-yarder touchdown yesterday, but
Watson have a couple catches, but nothing major.
yeah, but it just I don't know. But again, as we say every week, he's a name. If you got him, you're not starting Juice Uzomah over him, right? You're not starting Niles Paul.
I wonder what Dr. Novick thinks about rushing guys back from recurring broken feet.
Yeah, I mean, I'd actually probably side with him on that
I think
one.
I would too.
A 30, what is he, 35 on broken
This seems
feet?
like such a rush back.
It just feels like he's going to be in and out of the lineup. And it just feels like this is bait, and you see Greg Olsen and you get excited and you put him in your lineup. And
How many camera shots will there be of Olsen on the sideline looking down at his foot?
Right.
With talking to a trainer. The trainer not even working on the foot. Just kind of picking his foot up and down.
This is a big trainer tight end game between Jordan Reed and Greg Olsen. And we should also mention
too bad it's not in Charlotte, because we have got the famous foot doctor in Charlotte.
That's right.
Forget
Dr. Anderson, Dr. Bob.
So this game should actually be here. Maybe he's taking the trip up.
I've been to his house. I don't like to brag about it, but I've been to his house.
Name drop.
I've been.
I set you up on that one.
It wasn't foot related either, but I've been to his house. And Evan Ingram might be back this week. Thursday night game. At least we'll know early. But by the way, how about this kicking the balls for DFS main slate this Sunday? Ertz and possibly Ingram on Thursday. They're out. Sunday night, Kelsey Gronk. So main slate in most sites out. And then Kittle Graham Monday night out.
Isn't that good though? Isn't that good for smart people who maybe want to be strategic?
No, because there's no being smart at tight end. There's none. With all
Juice
those
Uzomah?
Well, Juice Uzomah, right? God, we said that a lot. Ryan Griffin, yeah. I mean, you're digging for them. I mean, the guy who is honestly probably the best play is Austin Hooper, which is crazy. It's like Hooper and Bray.
He can't do that 2 weeks in a row.
I know, but the matchups are there. I should say the best for the money, because they're not the most expensive. They're kind of expensive.
What are they charging for an Uzomah juice?
I mean, not much. You can go to the juice bar and get that one for pretty cheap. So anyway, I'd be worried about
running that joke into the ground.
Yeah, we are. Well, I'd be worried about Ingram too, quite frankly. But I'd be more apt to play him.
That's weird too. He couldn't play on Sunday, but he can play 4 days later.
That's what they're saving him up for. All right, what do you got?
Well, these aren't really busts. More of you talked about. You just mentioned Ryan Griffin. He had 6 catches,
9 targets.
9 targets. It's like, where's he been? He hasn't had another game. That's his first game this year over 2 catches. If you're expecting him to be kind of your waiver wire tight end, your guy, I wouldn't expect much. That's kind of a one-hit wonder, I feel like. And the other guy, if this guy's still in your lineup because of his name, Antonio Gates, he hasn't had a game of more than 3 catches. He's got 1 TD in 5 games. I think it's time to just stop thinking about Gates as someone who can help your team.
Yeah, it might be like Ricky Seals-Jones. It might be that time.
At least he's still athletic.
Yeah, and by the way, the best tight end on the main slate is Eric Ebron. Should have corrected myself.
Your boy, Eric Ebron.
My God.
2 TDs last Thursday night. It must have killed you.
Beasting.
Must have just killed you.
Yeah, I love that 10th overall pick or 11th, whatever the line spent on him. So, all right. Those are the picks. Think we nailed it. By the way, Ryan Griffin's in my Yahoo DFS lineup. $10, man.
Stack him up, bro. I think you should change it. I think you should change it to Juice Uzma.
I might have to go back. Oh, we'll have to see. If Croft is out, all in on that. All right. Random stuff from this past weekend or this past week. Anything good?
I thought you were going to start out. You got
my question in honor of the Odell Beckham Jr. ESPN interview where Lil Wayne was just sitting next to him high as a kite. If you were doing an interview, what rapper would you want sitting next to you?
Well, for multiple reasons, I'd go with my favorite rapper of all time, Notorious B.I.G. Now, if I can't
get a unique pick.
If I can't get him, I'll happily take his hologram. And what's going to make the interview?
If I can't get him, he's long dead. You can't get him.
He might be alive. But if I can get the hologram, here's the thing. This is the beauty of it. Not even going to acknowledge the fact that I'm interviewing with the hologram.
Just sitting there?
So, yeah, and I'm not going to field any questions about that after or whatever. It's just going to be me and the Biggie hologram, and I'm not going to mention it.
Are you going to acknowledge Biggie, though? Are you going to acknowledge it as if he's really there?
I'm going to acknowledge it like it's not a big deal that he's at my interview.
Right.
But if we're going to talk Biggie hologram, no, I'm not even going to.
If we're doing dead rappers, this really opens the door, because I'd say Old Dirty Bastard, but...
So who are you going with?
DMX. It's not difficult.
Now, will he... bark after your answers? Will he be functioning as a hype man for your interview, or how will that work?
Does it matter?
So you just want him to sit there quietly?
No, I don't. I want him to do whatever he wants to do.
You want him barking?
And the truth is, if he does sit there quietly, that's a story in and of itself.
Okay, so you win either way.
Why is DMX sitting there quietly? And if he barks, all the better.
Will enough people recognize him?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
He's looking a little rough nowadays, but Earl Simmons cleans up for camera. Don't worry about that.
All right, so one of the things I wanted to bring, because I feel like I was going to bring up Drew Brees' certificate. Should we just talk about that now, or have we talked about it too much?
Well, let's talk about the whole thing. So he sets the record. It's great. Magical moment. Teammates mob him. He gets a celebration penalty, which made me laugh.
So they didn't call that fix in, though. They still give him the celebration penalty.
So he goes to the sideline.
They give him the flag, too.
Yeah, they should. Hugs his wife and his kid. His kid, by the way, is wearing a Breeze Jr. jersey with, masking tape.
Taped on. The Breezes can't afford.
Makes $20 million a year.
They can't afford a better jersey.
The Saints wouldn't provide one if you went to the team.
Spent all the money on the certificate.
Yeah. So then this dude in white gloves, I guess from the Hall of Fame.
That's weird. This ball just got thrown through a football field, right? Grabbed with stickum.
Right.
But now the Hall of Fame guy.
And then he hands Drew Brees, and then Drew Brees tells his son, wait, let me read the exact quote again. I said it at the top.
Let's not misquote him.
You can accomplish anything in life if you're willing to work for it.
Was that sponsored by anyone? Because it sounds really...
Most generic platitude you could possibly say.
Sounds very cola-like.
Yeah, it is.
Was that sponsored by Cola?
By Cola? Find it at your...
Drew Brees, he's pretty boring, right?
Yeah.
I feel like he would sponsor Cola.
He would. And then
he'd sponsor Cola.
He'd get, it's available at your local supermarket.
Peyton would...
Not even...
He'd be Pepsi or Coke. I don't even know if he's one of those, but Drew Brees would come in, because I think he's done Wrangler after Brett Favre, right?
Wrangler,
so he'd come in,
Tide.
He'd come in with a cola for sure.
For sure. He's a cola guy. He likes his cola with ice, though.
So let's get to the certificate.
Right.
Which I don't think you saw at first glance. I had to text you about the certificate.
Well, no, because I'm watching on Watch ESPN, so I'm a little behind.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, I'm watching the Red Sox. I'm flipping.
Sure.
I've got multiple TVs set up, so I have no volume. So I don't know what kind of love affair they had with him during this. But I see a guy.
Jason Witten, I think, wants to marry Drew Brees.
But all I know is I saw Brees coming back to the sideline with a ball and a laminated certificate that I don't know what it said, but it could.
Hold on. I have a picture.
Do you have what it says? It can only say most passing yards in the NFL history or something.
Yeah, because I'm going to use it, I think, for the picture.
Have we ever seen someone get a certificate in a live game?
Oh, no. Okay, it says, NFL record, most passing yards, Saints logo, Drew Brees. Monday, October 8th, 2018.
Is this not the most ridiculous thing you've ever seen?
New Orleans Saints versus Washington Redskins, Mercedes-Benz Superdome.
Did Guinness sign off on it too? Was it a Guinness World Record?
And it's definitely laminated. And they handed it to him, and even Mr. Cola himself was like, what the hell do I do with this? And handed it to his wife.
So weird, right?
And then he had this other scripted moment. He goes, he hugs Sean Payton. Yeah, hell yeah, woo. And he goes, now come on, let's go win a game.
Oh, God,
it's like,
scripted.
Oh, my God.
Brought to you by Cola. Cut to the Cola commercial.
Cut to Cola. Cut to red labeled bottle that says Cola.
Nothing I'd rather do than win this game and refresh with a Cola after.
Win this game? Cola's around me. God damn. I couldn't believe it. Couldn't believe that happened.
I don't know if we should end on this note.
Yeah,
do you want to talk about your Josh Gordon rant at all?
Well, no. I texted you. I was watching the Pats game Thursday. I got Josh Gordon in my
Never
lineup.
seen someone so upset over a touchdown in his lineup.
And I wasted it because I still lost. And I was just like, slowly coming to the end. It's like they talk about the 5 stages of grief,
right.
Acceptance, denial, whatever order it's in, anger, bargaining. And I was doing that all, and then I hit.
I'm still laughing about the Cola.
No, it's good. Drew Brees loves Cola.
Laminated certificate one.
Yeah, it's so stupid. And then anyway, that was like one time I remember Barry Bonds won an award. It wasn't like MVP. It was some sort of player of the year, but like a generic one. But they still gave it to him before a World Series game when he wasn't playing.
Was that a Sport News player of the year?
It might have been. I don't know if he didn't think they were going to put a microphone in his face, if he just thought he was getting it, shaking a hand and walking out.
Right.
And they were like, And I swear to God, he ended his 8-second speech with "Go baseball."
Go baseball.
Because he said like, go something. He's like,
go Giants maybe, and go baseball.
And go baseball.
All right, so real quick, finish your Josh Gordon rant.
And so I'd come to terms. I'd accepted it. He is not a fan. I'm keeping him on my team, but he is not a starting caliber fantasy player. He's just not on the field. Never mind targets. He's not on the field. And maybe that changes, but I don't know. And then 36-yard touchdown catch off basically a sandlot play. It wasn't designed for him.
Yep.
That's garbage.
First deep ball I've seen Brady complete in years.
It was total garbage, but there you go. Now I got to keep playing him. And he's playing the Chiefs this week.
That's what you're mad about. I think the text, and I'll paraphrase, was something like, I can't believe he just scored a touchdown. Now I'm going to have to play him. Now I'm going to have to play him every week. And what was it? Something like, that was the worst, something like, I don't know what you said. You said something about being sucked into playing him every week. Yeah. And that was the worst touchdown you've ever had or something. Right. I don't even know what you said.
And it was. And now you got to play him because you're like, that's always possible. He could always, play breaks down, Brady chucks it, and he goes, grabs it, and gets a big touchdown. So he's in my lineup. And I hate it. So that's fantasy football. That's what
we both hate it lately.
That's what
combined record of podcast hosts, 3
not great.
3-7 in the experts league.
It's not great. Yeah. But it's this.
You know what?
Why do we do this?
We're spotting the league. We're just spotting the league because they know what we're about.
We get up at 5 a.m. to make waiver pickups. We agonize during games. It's just not healthy. But
take your fall back.
When you get 84K in a podcast episode.
We went overtime here. We should get paid.
Yeah, exactly.
Paid some overtime for this one.
Dustin definitely should, having to listen to this garbage. But anyway, that's it for the week. We have everything else you could possibly need on sportnews.com/fantasy, from rankings to sleepers to busts to DFS, lineups and stacks and values, ownership percentage, obviously injury updates all throughout the week, and then we really hit it hard Sunday morning. Make sure everyone knows who's in, who's out, who to play, who not to play. And we'll be back next week. We'll see if Alex is with us. May or may not be.
I think we might get some free colas down here because they should be sponsoring us after this.
We can get that Alta Vista sponsorship and that cola sponsorship. We really might be making.
We got to make up that 84K.
84K soon. So, for I'm Matt Latusky. Until next time.